Hey guys, I'm up on my rooftop. It's a beautiful sunset. So I thought I would come up here and give you guys a little perspective on some interesting cities that I think would be great to retire in Southeast Asia. I just had a lot of family in town, my wife's family and my own, visiting us for the last month. It's been very hectic. There's been a lot of Phnom Penh to Siem Reap, Angkor Wat several times. But it's been fun. It's been nice to see them. And it gave me a lot of perspective on how people who are coming of retirement age in the States don't really have great options within their own country. And this is true not just in the US, but in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Western Europe. Many of these countries are struggling with housing issues, cost of living issues, things that the culture that the retirees don't agree with. There's all kinds of reasons why people are looking at getting out of these Western countries. So I figured today what I would do is I would make a video that's basically a suggestion based on some of my experiences living in Southeast Asia over the last 10 years. It's not a one size fits all. It's not a best of video. They're not ranked. It's not like number one is the best, because all these things are kind of subjective. But what I thought I would do is I thought I would come up here and I would give you guys a couple different ideas that you can kick around if you're thinking about retiring in Southeast Asia. This is a part of the world that I know a lot about and I've lived in for a really long time. I've seen quite a few different interesting cities, and today I want to discuss a few cities that I think would fit really well for a retiree and that are also very cost effective. They could provide a very easygoing and very simple lifestyle for somebody who's looking for like a small to mid-sized city and some peace of mind, but yet convenience and access as well. So anyway, enough with that. Let's get on to the list. Once again, guys, this list is in no particular order. We're going to kick it off with one of my favorite cities in Southeast Asia, Luang, Prabang, Laos. Now, I really enjoyed my time in Laos. I thought the food was exceptional, affordable. The people were super nice. The culture was super authentic. I was fortunate enough to be there during the Tat Long festival. So we got to see some really incredible stuff while we were in Laos. They've now built a speed train that connects Laos to China. So getting from city to city has become like tremendously more simple, whereas years ago it could have taken you anywhere from 10 to 12 hours in a bus to get up to Luang Prabang. Now you can get on a speed train and just be there in a few hours. There has, I got to tell you guys, never been a better time for a country like Laos. When I was there, you can just see the growth happening. Luang Prabang itself is a smaller city. It's kind of in the north of the country. It's surrounded by mountains. It's got a river running through it. Actually, I believe it's got two rivers running through it, one of which is the Mekong and the other I'm not sure, but one of them is blue and one of them is brown. So it creates a very beautiful aesthetic. And there's lots of cafes where you can sit and watch the confluence of the two rivers. Very chill city. Most of the houses are wooden houses. The whole entire town is a World Heritage Site, full of good restaurants, good cafes, very, very, very chill vibes. I mean, there's just like low key, everybody's kind of chilling, small Southeast Asian city energy. Now, some of the disadvantages is it could be kind of expensive to fly in and out of there. The air quality isn't always going to be the best in Laos, especially in northern Laos. As far as hospitals and healthcare go, you're probably okay with small stuff, but if you would need anything more serious, you would have to fly to Thailand where you could get better care. So having health insurance that will fly you out of the country, this would be to your advantage if you were thinking about retiring in Luang Prabang. But let's, not focus only on the negative. Let's talk a lot about the positive. There's a reason why it made the list. For me, it's extremely safe. I mean, to the point where you're hearing crickets at night. There's nothing going on, right? The people are very, very chill. Everybody up there was super nice, super hospitable. The energy was, friendly, welcoming, generally interested in why you're in their country. Luang Prabang sees a good amount of tourists, but if you want to have authentic encounters with people, you only have to go a little bit outside of the old town and you'll see the rest of the city is, the real Laos again. And it's nice because you can easily just go between, the old town and the newer parts of the city, and then in minutes be out in the jungle where people are, living, agricultural lifestyle. I mean, there's some incredibly beautiful waterfalls near to the town. If you're going to drive, I mean, you could drive around and explore, the roads of northern Laos forever. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful places in Southeast Asia, just between mountains, rivers, waterfalls, you name it, they have it. Visas are a little bit complicated compared to some countries, but relatively easy to work with. We have a consulting partner in Laos, so if you're interested in living or retiring in Laos, you can reach us on the Facebook fan page, and we can help you connect with some local, visa people that will look after you and get you set up with long-term visas. One thing I've learned living as an expat for so many years is you will definitely get sick. And if it's your first time living in a developing country, I strongly recommend you have some reliable health insurance. That's why we partner with Safetywing. Our link is in the description below. They're a health insurance company designed for nomads, designed for people who live the same lifestyle as us, who are out there actually living their lives and pursuing new opportunities and new destinations. Safetywing is a great transitional health insurance until you can arrive in the country and figure out what you can get domestically. They're designed for people who move around and who travel, so it's the perfect health insurance for people who live our kind of lifestyle. You have tremendous lifestyle opportunities in these places. Don't let getting sick mess you up. Your first couple of years in a developing country, you will definitely get sick. And having a reliable health insurance can be the difference between spending thousands of dollars or coming away pretty clean. All right, number 2 on our list, once again, no particular order. We're gonna talk about Georgetown in Penang, Malaysia. Definitely one of the most beautiful cities on this list. Smaller city than Kuala Lumpur, which is a large city in Southeast Asia. Penang has a much more kind of laid back, smaller, it's a colonial town. It's got lots of beautiful British architecture. You've got some beaches. It's not known to be the best in the world for beaches, but it's got good services, good restaurants, and one of the most beautiful old towns you're going to find in Southeast Asia. It also has relatively easy access to other parts of Malaysia where you can get to more beautiful beaches like islands and things like that. You have good access to an international airport. They have good access to healthcare in Malaysia, and food standards are better in Penang than in Kuala Lumpur. There's lots and lots of reasonable accommodation in Penang. It's definitely not going to break the budget. They have the Malaysia My Second Home program. It's just something you can do yourself at immigration, or you can contract an agent and have them assist you with. There's a lot of different options for lifestyle in a place like Penang. You can look for some of the kind of colonial refurbished old apartments versus luxury high-rise condos with pools and amenities. They do have beaches, but again, it's not famous for beaches, but still, any beach is a nice bonus. And I know they have a beach out there called Monkey Beach with a bunch of monkeys on it. I don't know if that sounds awesome to me, but it definitely sounds like a place I'd like to check out. It's just an interesting little city. It's got a beautiful Chinese temple. We climbed to the top of it when we were there. Good shopping, good infrastructure. Malaysia is a pretty developed country for this part of the world. And I think it's a very reasonable option for somebody who's thinking about settling down in Southeast Asia and looking for a lower cost, kind of easygoing, laid back environment. Now, for me, some of the disadvantages would be that it is a Muslim country, so it's a lot more conservative around certain issues. I like to smoke cannabis. Malaysia, you really can't do that out there. So if you're someone who benefits from cannabis, from CBD, from things like that, then you might want to avoid Malaysia and choose Thailand, where they have the full legalization. But if that's not an issue for you, Malaysia is a great option. All right, guys, number 3. All right, so for me, it's one of my favorite cities in Southeast Asia, Siem Reap. Cambodia is one of my favorite countries to begin with. I really just enjoy Cambodia. Very easy visa system, pay to play. They have a retirement visa, very easy for foreigners to own businesses, very easy for foreigners to do business, relatively speaking, for this part of the world. There's a lot of different options in terms of styles of accommodation, from living in shockingly cheap guest houses with pools for anywhere from like $180 to $200 a month, or to even having, private homes, villas, condos. I mean, you could find just about anything in terms of accommodation in Siem Reap. It's a city that's not very big, but yet it's not Mayberry. There's a lot going on. There's a nightlife, there's Pub Street, there's the night market. There's always people coming from all over the world to see the Angkor temples, which is the main reason why people go to Siem Reap. It's actually the main reason why most people go to Cambodia. So, you're going to be living in basically the epicenter of all tourism for Cambodia, right? And it is much cheaper, like fractionally so compared to the capital city, Phnom Penh. It's definitely safer, quieter. People are very friendly, very accommodating. Siem Reap is just a nice place to be. It's an easygoing town. At night, the weather can become very, very pleasant. It's very nice to walk around. It's built very well. The infrastructure within Siem Reap is very good, especially for Cambodia. They just built a new international airport, so now there's going to be a lot more flights to and from Siem Reap. Kind of similar to Laos, if healthcare is a big concern, Siem Reap, will have some improvements in healthcare since, we started coming to Cambodia, but it would still lack somewhat if you needed something very serious, and you would probably be better off going to Thailand. But from there, to get to Thailand is very close, and there is health insurances that you can get that will air vac you. So, I wouldn't necessarily discount it. It's insanely cheap to live, guys. You can get a room in a guest house, sometimes with a pool, like a nice guest house, not like a hole, for anywhere from $180 to $220 a month. You can get a condo, like a good condo, for anywhere from $400 to $500 a month. And you can rent houses for anywhere from $400 a month, even I'm sure if you go far out enough, even $300. I mean, I'm sure if you go into the provinces nearby, even less. So it is a place where you can live at a very low cost of living, and it's just a nice place to be in general, with relatively straightforward visas, and one of the best food scenes for a city of its size. All right, guys, number 4. So this is the first place I ever came to in Southeast Asia, Chiang Mai, Thailand. I was a young boxer, and I wanted to pursue Muay Thai. I had been training Muay Thai on the west coast of the United States, and some of my coaches were from Thailand, and they had suggested that I go to Thailand. And I wasn't sure if I was ready for Bangkok, so I was like, let me go and check out the second largest city and kind of like ease myself into the culture. And I flew to Chiang Mai, and the rest is history. If I didn't take that fateful journey, I would have never met my wife. I would have never done any of the stuff I've done in my life. It all started with Chiang Mai. So I'm always going to have a love for this place. But I will say that Chiang Mai has grown quite a bit and been somewhat like discovered. Pollution, traffic, lots and lots of foreigners have definitely converged on this city. There's a lot of changes that I've seen over the years that I don't know if I consider positive. Like the burning season has gotten horrendously bad for part of the year, but I'm still going to keep it on the list, guys, because there's very few places in Southeast Asia that you can have a lifestyle as cheap as you can in Chiang Mai. Now, if you try to stay short term in Chiang Mai during the high season, it can be expensive. But if you come there and you have a retirement visa or a long-term visa, like an elite visa, you can get accommodation for so cheap. I mean, nice accommodation, pool, sauna, jacuzzi, that kind of stuff. Very inexpensive. Luxury properties that would be hundreds of dollars more in Bangkok, will be an absolute value in Chiang Mai. Medical care is cheaper in Chiang Mai. Quality of life in Chiang Mai is very good. It's very relaxed. Even with the traffic, even with the growth, it still has kind of the sense of a small town feel once you get into the old city. A lot of retired people would probably really enjoy living in the old city because you can walk everywhere. It's very, very convenient, walkable area with cafes, restaurants, shops, guest houses. There's not tons of accommodation in the old city, but there is accommodation very near to the old city. There's also, if you want to drive, like I said, newer projects that are going to have all the services and amenities that you would expect in a luxury building in Southeast Asia. You're also going to have some good hospitals because Thailand has pretty good healthcare for the region, definitely one of the better in this part of the world. You're going to have good access because the Chiang Mai airport has expanded over the years, and it's a much busier airport than it was years ago. It takes in many, many flights a day, probably more flights than it can even handle. So you can get places from Chiang Mai, and you can get to other destinations in Thailand. So if you are based in Chiang Mai and you start to not enjoy the feeling of burning season and choking on the air you're breathing, you can just hop on a short flight and be in a Thai island. It's really not a bad place to be located. You have a lot of different travel options from Chiang Mai. You have a lot of different trekking and outdoor activities, nature, hiking. There's a big organic food scene, probably one of the best that I know of in Southeast Asia. It's a city that does sleep. It's very relaxed. People, oftentimes, they cut their business at 8 o'clock. So some of the better restaurants, you got to eat before 7 p.m., 8 p.m. because they're packing up and going home. It's just a nice place in general. It's got a good vibe. If you don't mind it already kind of being discovered and being a lot of foreigners, for some people that's going to be a benefit because they'll have a bigger community of expats to socialize with. But for some people who want a more authentic experience, it could be more of a disadvantage. So I'll leave that to you. But it's definitely a place you should consider because there's very few places in the world where you can have the infrastructure, decent health care, insanely low cost of living, and access to clean, healthy food that you can in Chiang Mai, as well as the ability to move around. Number 5, Danang, Vietnam. Now, Vietnam is a place that will always be important to me because I spent a long part of my life living there. I came out there as an English teacher and eventually built my consulting business there. Me and my wife went through so many ups and downs in that country, lots of different challenges, and we ultimately came out stronger, better, and more grown in a lot of ways. So it's a place that will always be very special to me. So I'm a bit biased, and I will be very honest with you and tell you most of the time we lived there, we lived in Ho Chi Minh, which is not a place I will recommend for you to retire at all. Da Nang is a much better place for someone looking to retire. It's got a lot of activity. You got a lot of different things you can do. It's not a small town. It's still quite a big city, but it has kind of a small town vibe, and it can be very relaxing, especially on the beach side of the city. The city center is a bit lively and buzzing. It has a Saigon feel to it, but once you get to the beach side, it's way, way more chill. And most expats are going to want to live on the beach side. There's a big community of digital nomads, so you're going to have other expats. You're going to have access to an international airport. And one thing that's nice about Da Nang is the airport is actually in the city, unlike one of my favorite cities, in the Trang, where you got to drive for like over an hour to get to the airport. The airport is right in the city in Da Nang. You're very short to where you can take day trips to Hoi An or to Hue. So you have two really interesting heritage cities that you can get to in a really short time. There's the Hai Van Pass, which is, just a natural wonder in Vietnam. You have beaches, you have, a very, very international community, like I said, of people who are working online, small business owners who just fell in love with the place. Now, the disadvantage is it's central Vietnam, so working with the central government can be more challenging than working with other parts of Vietnam. For example, the southern governments can be a little bit easier for foreigners to deal with when it comes to things like visas, employment, opening companies, businesses, things like that. But there's all kinds of ways where we can work around those challenges, and we can help you guys set up to where you can live in Da Nang with peace of mind. So if you like Da Nang, definitely get at us. It's a great option. You can eat very inexpensively. If you eat local food, it's insanely cheap. It's also a place in Vietnam very famous for its local cuisine, insanely good street food. And another big advantage for those of you coming from Western countries is you're going to have a little bit more of seasons. Like, it actually gets cold in Da Nang once in a while, whereas a lot of the other cities on the list, it's relatively hot. Although, some of the other ones we mentioned do have their colder nights. I would say Da Nang actually gets like to where you can put on a jacket sometimes of the year. Chiang Mai does too. And I think Luang, Prabang does too. So that would probably be a pretty big advantage for all of them. Siem Reap's pretty hot, but even Siem Reap sometimes it will get a little bit cooler. This is one of the advantages, guys, and one of the reasons why I made this list about kind of smaller to medium-sized cities rather than just focusing on, the popular big mega cities or just very specifically the beach towns is I wanted to select a couple interesting destinations where the cost of living is low, but at the same time, it's pleasant to live there. There's sometimes cooler weather. Southeast Asia can be repressively hot, guys. So, the fact that almost all these cities get cooler weather once in a while is a big advantage. And, Penang is right there on the coast, so they get breeze off the ocean. And it's another city where you're not going to be just completely crushed by the sun all the time. All these places are great, guys. They all offer different things for different types of people. They have a lot of different caveats. I'm not going to tell you that any specific country is like a picnic to work with necessarily, but if you know the right people, there's always ways to sort things out. If you guys are thinking about coming to Southeast Asia, hit us on the Facebook fan page. If you're looking for health insurance when you're going to come overseas for the first time, we have a link in the description for Safetywing. Check them out. They're a great health insurance for when you're just getting started in a new country. You can try to find something domestically when you arrive, but just so you arrive with some health insurance. Now, remembering, guys, developing countries, you may face a lot of problems with getting sick, things like this. There are going to be challenges to retiring in a developing country. There's going to be some infrastructure issues, cultural issues, things you find different. But the reason I picked all these cities is they're relatively relaxed, lower population that are accustomed to seeing foreigners, have a reasonable quality of life for a very reasonable cost of living. And I hope that these give you some ideas. Now, once again, I didn't put them in any specific order, and there's lots of other cities that I know that are cool, but I'm going to do a lot more content like this, guys. We're going to be more specific. We'll talk about beach towns. We'll talk about places for employment. We'll talk about places for visas. We'll talk about places for, you name it. Best places to move, best places to retire. I'm going to start doing a lot more content like this, guys. So if you enjoy this type of video, please smash the like button and we'll make much more of it for you. Thank you for watching. If you're thinking about retiring overseas, like I said, get us on the fan page. We can help you guys get set up. We can save you a lot of time, money, and stress. And once again, this list is no particular order. I don't like one more than the next. They're just a couple interesting suggestions. And, I was very inspired because we spent a lot of time with our family and they're all about to retire. And all of them are really not thinking about the United States. So for those of you thinking about Southeast Asia, I really hope the lists help. Guys, as far as healthcare goes in Vietnam, I know it's maybe not the best in the region, but I got to say, they saved my life in Ho Chi Minh City. I got very sick the first year I was living out there, and I found the hospital to be very competent. My doctor was very, very thorough. Danang has a sister hospital to the hospital that I was in Saigon, Huan Mi Hospital. They have a Huan Mi in Danang as well. So there are a couple good hospitals up in Danang, but anything more serious, you would have to go to Saigon. And then if it couldn't be handled in Saigon, you would have to go to Bangkok. So it is going to be one of the better options for healthcare on the list. I would still say that Thailand probably would beat Vietnam, but Vietnam does have pretty okay healthcare, especially in some of the private hospitals. And even some of the public hospitals are fairly competent and have built like foreigner wings where they kind of have like waiting rooms and it's a different buzz than your typical Vietnamese hospital. There are some good public hospitals, but primarily the best hospitals are going to be in Ho Chi Minh City, which would require you to fly from Da Nang or to take a very long car ride. So that is something to consider. The healthcare is not bad there. I knew someone there who had to use the healthcare system up there. He was pretty sick. He had some serious health problems, an older guy. And ultimately he did have to go down to Saigon to get it sorted out. But they did sort him out within Vietnam. So yeah, that's my personal experiences with the Vietnamese healthcare system. Like I said, in Ho Chi Minh City, it was very, very good. Da Nang has a couple sister hospitals of the hospital I used. And I think they have a couple good hospitals up there, that are not related to that hospital as well. So it's not a terrible option in terms of healthcare. Are you thinking of living, investing, buying property, buying land, working, or spending any significant time in Cambodia? Cambodia is an amazing country that offers a wide range of different opportunities for someone who has an open mind. If you're thinking about coming to Cambodia for the first time, we offer a consulting service for people who are looking to have everything done for them before they arrive. They want their housing contacts, their employment, their consultants, whatever they want to find in the country, they want it set up. That's what we do for you. We make it easy so that you don't have to worry about scams, problems, or other pitfalls that new expats face in this amazing country.